Dean Phillips was the only one willing to take the heat to be in the primary against Biden. He never went after Biden. He said that Biden was too old and that he was going to be a bit of a risk factor for that reason, and he was dead right. And now he has a good idea for how to move forward. So let's bring in Democratic Representative Dean Phillips. Good to see you again, sir.
Chris, good to be with you.
All right. Thank you for making time for us. I know you are very much in demand right now, and rightly so. First, do you disagree with my analysis to this point?
No, I think you're spot on. We're talking about a process, correct?
Yes.
Oh, yes. The process is what I've outlined very similarly. Look at Chris. You know me. I believe competition results in better outcomes, better candidates, better policy. It's what I argued from day one when I took on Biden. It was the lack of a competitive process that I was fighting against. I couldn't achieve it then.
Yep.
Darn hard to achieve in 3 weeks. But let me tell you, most countries run snap elections in the period of a month. We can do it too. And all I'm calling for is a series of 4 town halls. I think Vice President Harris, as you eloquently pointed out, clearly the lead candidate. I think she probably will emerge as the nominee. Invite her, and then do a straw poll of the 4,000 Democratic delegates who will be attending the convention here in August, and invite the next 3 vote getters to a thoughtful, spirited town hall series to introduce them to delegates, to the country, warm up those campaign muscles that they're going to need to take on Donald Trump, and probably equally importantly, vet one of those potential VP candidates who I think could be a linchpin decision in this election. Those who say that is messy or impossible or it's too late, clearly I believe are part of the problem. People want competition, they want choices, and there you have it.
Well, Dean, if they say it's too late, well, too bad, because the party just made a really big decision to chase out the only man you have who's beaten Trump. So he's gone. Unless he goes back on his word, which we can't believe. Do you think it's going to, a series of questions. One, do you think it's going to hurt you guys that Biden was obviously chased out?
No. In fact, I think people will have very short memories. In fact, I wish we were celebrating a man who made a very heroic and perhaps one of the most unusual decisions that people in power ever make. In human history, it has rarely happened. In our country,
to give it up.
Very rarely to give it up. George Washington set that standard. Yeah. I don't want people to underestimate what type of a decision that is for any person, let alone the president of the United States. I think Joe Biden should be honored. He's an American hero. I think what he did took a lot of courage. Being run out. I tried to do this, Chris, as you referenced, in a thoughtful manner to call it out early where this didn't have to be messy, and it didn't. I was willing to fall on the sword, and I did. Look, I lost my
No, you did it the right way.
I knew I would. But that's a small price to pay.
You did it the right way, though.
Well, thank you.
You did it the right way. You ran against him, and you made a positive case. These people did it the wrong way.
And I thought the time to do it was 8 months before.
This is not what he wanted to do. You're right.
I think the time
you were
8
right,
months before,
and that's why we had you on and supported it. 100%. Now, next thing, are you hearing what I'm hearing, Dean? No, it's just the truth. I'm not doing you any favors, and anybody who's followed the process knows this. Dean did it the right way, okay? This is the wrong way. Now, can they make it right? We'll see. Are you hearing what I'm hearing is that go slow on Harris. The insiders may want her, but what the progressives wanted was no Biden and no Harris, and that there are a lot of people from Obama's constellation of human capital who are on that team of neither of them. Have you heard that?
Well, Chris, as you know better than most people, life in Washington is just a daily episode of Veep, and there are cliques, and there's cafeteria time, and there are rivalries, and much of it is not transparent and hard to understand. Frankly, I did not quite understand why it seemed like the most progressive left in our Democratic caucus suddenly were Joe Biden's biggest protectors. It did not make a lot of sense. I will confess, and I think most of my colleagues would agree, it's a little bit hard to understand what is going on behind the scenes. And by the way, that is why I think the Democratic National Committee and Democrats writ large are finding life awfully complicated these days. Nobody quite understands who's pulling strings, who's in charge. And that was another reason I ran in that primary, is to start trying to peel that onion back a little bit. As for the vice president, look, you said it earlier. Her resume is quite remarkable. She is the sitting vice president of the United States of America. Clearly, she is a person who is prepared, has the intellect, has the experience to do the job. There is no job in the United States of America that has more prominence and less fulfillment than the vice presidency. And I think that's why I think it's also really important to set aside all the BS on the sidelines here and allow her some platform to travel the country, participate in town halls, not just start the rally phase of I'm the nominee, but kind of ease into this. And like I said, exercise those muscles. I don't really care, frankly, what others think. I do care about transparency and competition. And look, in a perfect world, as I argued earlier, we should have had an open competition, Chris. Now here we are with 4,000 people, 4,000 delegates will make the determination who takes on Donald Trump. So no matter what people think about process, that's the truth. That's why those 4,000 people should have a mechanism to vet some candidates. And by the way, it will help whoever the eventual nominee is, and it will also provide an audition to vice presidential candidates to make the country comfortable with them before they take on this extraordinarily important mission.
Two more quick things, and I just want to say on the record, on television, you have a place on my platform at NewsNation and on my podcast for the duration of this process. That's my first question. Is your hat in the ring, and do you want to be seen as competitive for the nomination for president and or vice president?
Chris, my mission was to emulate Paul Revere, not George Washington. And I did so. It was more challenging, painful. It took longer to achieve the result, but we did so. And today's bittersweet for reasons you can imagine. I have no intention to run. I think my mission has been accomplished. I want to support and do anything I can for the eventual nominee of our party. And like I said, my proposition is to poll the 4,000 people, of whom I'm one of the delegates, but poll the 4,000 delegates, identify 3 others to do these town halls with Vice President Harris, and whomever those people are. But the delegates are going to make the choice, Chris. And that's why, because time is so short, I think that's the only way to do it. Whomever they select, I think are the people that should be in this competition. I just want to see our country succeed, and that will make me... That'll provide the vindication, frankly, that I think many have been trying to bestow upon me, which has not been fulfilling yet, but I'm still optimistic it'll happen in November.
So you are pro-process. You have not said that you are getting behind VP Harris at this point. Do you have any names that you want to offer that you believe should be in consideration?
Yeah, like I said, I think Vice President Harris will emerge as the nominee for all the reasons you just shared earlier. I think this competition will also elevate some other candidates. And I think the VP selection in this race will be among the more consequential that we've known in our lifetime. And if she chooses a moderate vice presidential candidate with executive experience, I think this is going to be a pretty darn compelling ticket. We need to invite back independents, never Trump Republicans who Joe Biden had been hemorrhaging. We need to demonstrate to the country a spirit of optimism and future forwardness, and also some reconciliation. And I do believe that a candidate team that reinvites Americans to debate and deliberate and respect one another could be an extraordinary gift to our country, certainly to Democrats. And I hope that this process could elevate. I think Josh Shapiro, I think Gretchen Whitmer, I think Andy Beshear, perfect example of some governors with a bit more recognition and name recognition, others with less. But those are the types of people that I really think the country would be excited by and demonstrate where most of the exhausted majority is in America right now. And that's my hope. Fingers crossed.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.